The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Welcome to the Chaos Theory Podcast, coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. Dive into everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Let's get into the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Chaos Theory Podcast. My name is Mr. Chaos, and if you haven't been paying attention, start paying attention. I've got a real big guest on tonight. He's somebody I had booked previously. Things didn't work out quite as we wanted them to, but we stayed in constant communication, and he's back. He is part of one of my favorite stables or factions or whatever you want to call them on the independent scene. So, if you guys have paid attention to my podcast at all, one, I'm a military vet, did 10 years in the Army, and the military and the Army means the absolute world to me. The gentleman I have on today is a United States Marine Corps vet. And so obviously, just like with Brandon Weiss, we have that bond of being literal brothers. Like I don't know this man from Adam, but this is my brother just based on his service. So, I'm not going to talk too much longer. There's something I want to play. Hopefully he'll pop for it when he hears it, and then we'll bring him on.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Hell yeah. Everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome in. Part of the Death Threat Army. My boy. U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Tommy, the lovable psychopath, Vendetta.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Like I was saying, we had you scheduled previously. I think it was either June or July. And
yes, sir.
Unfortunately, you got injured. I had to recover on that, which is, the life of a Marine and the life of a wrestler. But yeah, I appreciate you coming back on, when you had time and actually getting this done, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you again.
Absolutely. So I've had the privilege. How I learned about Death Threat Army is I was on Twitter just hyping up Mission Pro Wrestling like I do most of the time. And there's a woman there named Rosa Negra, and she has the best frog splash in the history of the world outside of Eddie Guerrero. And your boy, Jack Price, was like, I think I got something to say about that.
Yeah, that's my boy right there.
So he showed me one of his clips, and I was like, I think she still got you beat, but your shit is off the hook. Just because Rosa Negra is like 5'1" and jumps like she's standing on Shaq's shoulders.
No, that's fair. That's very fair.
It's insane. But I had the opportunity to interview him. And I did my research, and I was like, oh, this Death Threat Army shit is cool as fuck. Like, they're just not always together, but they're kicking ass everywhere they are. They're always representing.
Yeah.
Multiple tag team champs, multiple heavyweight championships. Dude, you guys are fucking taking the indies by storm right now.
Yes, sir. We taking over.
Hell yeah. And you're in the Death Threat Army with the guy who trained you.
Yep, Aaron Orion. We joke that he's like my dad.
How fucking insane is that?
Oh yeah, I love it, man. It's awesome.
That's got to be dope as fuck that somebody, one, that you put your faith in to train you to get you the basics, is now willing to say, you know what, you're good enough that I'll ride with you.
No, for sure. And especially when me and Aaron first started tagging together, it was very cool because Jack and Aaron were the tag team of Death Threat. And then it just worked out that like me and Aaron were in the same place, same time. It made sense, so we ended up doing it, and then we just like took off and like had like this really natural chemistry. And I feel like it was that way with like everybody in DTA, but especially with like Aaron. I think it's because like we had that trainer and trainee mentality to start, and then we were on the road together for like a year straight pretty much, where it was just me and him all the time. So I feel like we basically got to this point where like we could talk to each other in the ring without even like talking to each other. So it's genuinely like I wouldn't change it for the world. We're actually going to Minnesota to tag this week, and I'm genuinely excited to be back and tagging with him.
Hell yeah. It's cool because you learn from this guy. So he knows where you started. He knows
Yep.
what you're capable of. And he knows what you're capable of even when you don't think you're capable of doing it.
Oh, 1,000%.
So that's got to be like, all right. On one hand, I can just imagine it being like, all right, I don't want to fuck this up and disappoint him. And on the other hand, like, all right, fucker, I'm going to show you what I got tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's always like a little, I guess you could say like a chip that I want to prove that like, because he was when I first started, he gave me the nickname the Prodigy. So I always wanted to like prove that like I earned that nickname. It wasn't just like a gimmick. It was like something that was real. Like I actually am the Prodigy. So I always like would go out and like try to prove to like not I guess like him and myself that it was like well founded. It was I always remember the first time me and him wrestled each other, and I like in my head I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a bunch of crazy shit. Like I'm gonna really put like everything over, and like he's gonna love it. And like 8 minutes into the match, I was like, brother, we gotta get out of here. He was like, oh, you're fine, brother, you're fine. So he's like he's always been like pushing me to that extra level to make sure that I know like you like I set my bar here, my bar's actually up here.
Yeah. That's what a good trainer should do. So
Definitely,
like
definitely.
I said in the intro, you know, I'm a Army vet. You're a U.S. Marine Corps vet.
Thank you for
Let's
your
talk about
service, man.
you too, brother. Let's talk about your time in the Marine Corps and how that influenced you as a person, outside of just
Oh,
being a wrestler.
for sure. I always think that like the military and the Marine Corps in general like turned my life around for like a good path. I wasn't like a terrible human being, but I wasn't like the greatest human being when I was growing up. Like I would get myself into trouble. Like I'd constantly steal like $20, $30 from my mom and stuff like that. So like I think getting in and having the discipline almost like forced onto you, like you have no choice but to be a disciplined guy or gal now while you're in there. And I think that like really forced me to grow up at a younger, I say younger age. I mean, it's 18, but I feel like nowadays most people don't get that like that forced progression like I had. And it sounds bad, but I genuinely think it was the best thing that I could have had. I needed a rude awakening. I needed like that slap in the face that was gonna be like, you ain't shit, dude. Like in the grand scheme of things, you're this big in a big ass world. So like you got to make your mark somehow, and you ain't going to make your mark if you don't have respect and discipline. Like those are the two main things that you have to have in life in order to go somewhere, in my mind. And that's what the military taught me, like right out the gate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I got in the Army, it was 2000, end of 2004,
Mhm.
and I was a punk ass kid who swore he was a gangster and all this other bullshit. And then I got to the military, and like you said, you learn real quick. Pharrell ain't shit. You
Yep.
don't mean shit. But
Nothing.
what you can be is a part of a team that matters. If you learn
Mhm.
how to shut the fuck up, do what you're told, and forget about just doing you. You have to
Exactly.
focus on something here.
Yeah.
What did you do?
And I think that's where like I was in supply was my main MOS, and then I was in an artillery unit. So we were constantly going out into the field for artillery runs and stuff like that, and like training and training and training. And I genuinely loved it. Like it was time of my life. Like looking back now in hindsight, you get to like remember all the late nights where you were out and like out in the grass doing a training op covered in.
Uh, hold on.
I always loved it. I thought it was incredibly like at the time I thought it was incredibly bullshit, like all the stuff that we had to go through. And then like obviously hindsight, you look back and you're like, all right, I understand why we had to go through some of this stuff. Like you got to put us through the shit so we know like how to get through it type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been
Oh
out.
man, I can't
Can you hear
hear
me?
you. Oh no.
Hold on. Damn it.
Oh man.
Hold on.
Hold on. I'm a back out and back in.
All right.
Give me 1 second.
Yep. Sorry, guys. We're having technical issues real quick. So Tommy's going to come back in. But essentially what I was going to say while he was talking was, you think back on your time in the military. I've been out for 7 years now. And you think back about... Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, cool.
My bad. My microphone's cut out on me.
It's all good. So what I was going to say is like, now I've been out for 7 years and you think back like, you know what? The time in the field or the time deployed was the shit. I missed that shit. Like,
oh yeah.
As fucked up as the stupid shit that, the military's full of fuck games. Period. Yep. But sitting back, you're like, that camaraderie is what made me who I am.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was actually, one of my buddies is getting married and he was in the Marine Corps as well. So we just had his bachelor weekend. We were like all kind of chilling, like reminiscing about boot camp. And we thought of like the weirdest story that we all had happen. When you're at the rifle range for the Marine Corps, there's no like walls for the stalls when you go in the bathroom. Cause they like, obviously they don't want like anybody going in there with something they shouldn't. So it's just random, like, porcelain thrones like in a room with no walls and like all these dudes, and I'm sure it's the same thing for the females. You just go in and you're just sitting there and you're like looking over to your left and right, having a whole conversation with like just random dudes that you're at boot camp with that you've like become basically brothers with or sisters with, and it's like at the time you don't like think about how weird that is, and then you look back at it like once you're out and you're like, that was weird, but like also you have to have such like a strong bond with people for that to not feel weird in the moment, where like that's just normal. You're that close with someone that like none of that bothers you.
Yeah, there's so many things. So I was in the infantry for most of the time in the Army, and in a line unit in the infantry, you talk about closer than brothers, man. Like literally you guys are sleeping in the field, two dudes in a tent. One dude is facing out and one dude is facing in. So you're both smelling each other's feet for the entire time. There's shit where I think back as a civilian and I'm like, that was some of the most fucking weird shit you could ever do. But at the moment, it was just like, okay, that's my boy, whatever.
Yeah. You don't think anything of it. It's just a normal Wednesday, Like
yeah. Absolutely. Like you'd be out in the field for 6 months, come back, and all your uniforms are salt stained, and you could literally stand them up because you can't wash your fucking uniform in the field, and you've got a 6-month growth going on because razors are broke. You can't go get razors. And Jesus Christ, dude. So while you were in the Marine Corps, was wrestling still a thing that you were paying attention to?
So I actually, when I first got into the Marine Corps, I kind of lost track of it. And I think it was just like not having access to like cable and stuff like that. Cause like when you first get into the fleet, you don't have like cable, internet, all that set up right away. So I think that was like partially the reason. And I was like watching highlights and keeping up with like who was like popular and stuff like that. But like at that time, I wasn't really even like deep into independent wrestling. And then I think it was just I was on a MEU. I was on deployment, and I believe it was Survivor Series 2015 when Sheamus cashed in on Roman Reigns while the confetti was falling and everything. And it was like 3 a.m. for us on ship because it's such a time difference. And I just remember I was like the only person watching that in the chow hall, and I was just like marking out. I was like losing my mind. I was like, this is so dope. And I just remember looking around and like no one else was watching. And I was like, fuck it, man. This is what I want to do. Like once I get out, like I think that was the moment I like realized, all right, I don't want to be a pro wrestler, but there was like a small stretch where I wasn't watching it, and then one of my good friends, his name's Morales, we call him Momo. He ended up getting me into like Ring of Honor, New Japan, like, and basically like helped spread my horizons out a little bit more, and that was where I like really started to like fall in love with it again.
Yeah, it's easy to lose. Like when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is how much of a wrestling fan that I've been my entire life. I was in Iraq from 07 to 08. The like 90 days out from end of tour, I go on, I just re-enlisted, got a big re-enlistment bonus. I'm a E4, I'm a corporal, and in Iraq had no kids, no wife, no nothing. So I go on WWE Shop and order a spinner to Iraq. And it gets there. It gets there literally 2 weeks before we're about to redeploy home. So I get it in the middle of Iraq, and my platoon sergeant comes up and he's like, Corporal Farrell, what the fuck is that? He was like, what the fuck? How much did you pay for this? And I bought one of the, like, not the replicas, but the authentic ones that cost $1,500.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was like, you wasted $1,500 on that fucking thing?
Never wasted.
Hell no. But so when we're packing up, the Navy was coming to do our Connex inspections. So we had to do a complete fucking layout. You know how the layouts and bullshit go.
Yeah.
So we're doing a layout, and I've got this giant ass wrestling belt laid out, and everybody, my commander, my first sergeant, my sergeant major, my battalion commander, everybody wants to take pictures with the belt and this Corporal Farrell shit, and that's how I got made fun of my entire tour until it was time for everybody to take pictures with my fucking belt. And then they stopped.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah. That's how much of a wrestling fan I've been in my entire life. And I mean, you can tell I've got the IWGP US heavyweight title.
See that.
And
Hell
my action figures. So, but
it's a vibe. I love it.
Absolutely. So the military comes and goes. You're getting out. Mm-hmm. How do you find the school that you train at? I know you're a Michigan boy, and you trained up in Michigan, right? So
yes,
how does that?
Trained, yeah. So basically, I got out, and I didn't like know what. Like I think the only place I knew of was House of Truth in Detroit, and I just didn't know like when I wanted to start training and stuff. So I didn't like necessarily jump right into it. I basically like, I got out, I had a couple more months of pay coming from the military because I went on terminal leave. And I pretty much at that point was just like kind of chilling, like partying with my friends, like not going to the gym and stuff. So I pretty much like just like let loose and kind of like unwinded. And then I got to a point where I think it was like, it was into the new year, and I was basically like, nah, like if you're going to do this, you got to do it now, man. So it was just going into 2018. And then I discovered Pure Pro Wrestling up in Flint, Michigan. And I looked it up. I was like, well, this looks great. I went, started training. And then I think it was like a couple months in, that was when I met Aaron. And that was when like everything really started to change for me, because Aaron kind of took me under his wing. And it was funny, the first day that I met him, I had found out he was coming to training. So everyone was like, hey, like, make sure you have stuff that you can work on, because he's going to ask you, like, what do you want to work on? And I just had a match I think the week before. So I had sent him the match, and he was like, all right, I got a couple of things we'll work on. And the first thing that he said, like in person to me, he was like, your clotheslines look like dog shit. And I was like, oh, cool. Nice to meet you too, man. Yeah, so do you want to go fix those? And he was like, yeah, let's go fix them. And within like 30 minutes, I was throwing just meat hooks out there. And I like, that was when like everything started to really take off for me, was once I met Aaron through training. And then that was when I started learning like way deeper into it. Like I started learning the crazy stuff, like the indie stuff. And that was when like everything, like I said, everything took off from there.
Aaron's a veteran too, right?
Yeah, he was in the Army as well.
That's why, yeah. So only another vet could look at somebody and be like, "You look like dog shit. Let's go fix it." not be insulting at all. Not like I hate you and I don't want anything to do with you. But like, look,
yeah.
I can make you better. Here's the honest assessment. You look like dog shit. Let me take you and make you better. That's straight military vet back and forth to each other.
Oh, 100%. And that's the way I love it with him. It's like no matter what it is, he'll be straight up with me. He'll be like, if I look blown up in a man, he's like, hey, dude, you need to not be a blown up fat piece of shit. Like, come on, dude. And I'm like, all right, I got you.
That's so funny. I mean, that's, look, the one thing that vets, we kind of speak a different language than anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And I could look at you, like I said in my intro, we've never met, but already just because of your service, you're my brother. Period, point blank.
Oh, 100%. Same to you, man.
So we could meet up one time, have a beer, and we would instantly be talking shit to each other. And to your outside civilian, it would look like,
we hated each other.
Yeah. Are they going to fight? And to you and me and Aaron and anybody else who's been in the military, it's just a normal day of talking shit.
Yep.
So inside the wrestling industry, which is another box inside of a giant box, it's got to be even like, what the fuck is going on with these two? That, because look, the wrestling world is filled with veterans. There's a lot of us in the industry. I mean, super famous ones like Randy Orton, his dad, BG James, all those guys, to all the way down to the independent scene to guys who are just starting to train, because the military is such a carny life, and wrestling is exactly a carny life. So it literally
That's
is
the
like
truest shit I've ever heard right there.
It literally is like, okay, this is the same shit I used to do, except I'm allowed to have a beard. I can put my hands in my pockets and I can walk and talk on a cell phone.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, it's dude. Every time I talk to somebody, I get more and more similarities between the wrestling business and the military. I'm like, dude, literally, this is just the military without as many fuck games and no weapons.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah. So let's get into to DTA.
Yeah.
So we talked about Jack Price, Black Diamond. That's my guy. I fuck with him heavy. He's such a good dude. He is such a
great.
Good dude.
Genuinely a good dude.
Absolutely. Then we're talking about Aaron Orion, who seems to be the elder statesman of the group.
Oh yeah, he's the father of us all.
And then the only other one I'm really familiar with besides yourself is Isiah Broner. That dude, I'm trying to bring you fuckers down to Texas so you guys can see the Texas indie scene. Because
that dude's business right there.
If you and Broner and Orion and Price all come down to Texas, y'all would never fucking leave.
Oh no, it's over.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like there's it's so much, because I follow everybody in the Death Threat Army on Twitter, and most of y'all on Instagram too. So besides the couple that I named, who else is in the Death Threat Army?
Yeah, so within Michigan we have on top of those two we have Alex Weir and Adam Wick. Alex got out a little bit. He was like with us traveling into like Canada and things of that nature before COVID hit. And Adam's like just now starting to break out into it. But those are two dudes who like genuinely like, I think they kind of get the small guy complex of us because they're the shorter ones out of us. So I think they have a little bit more to like throw out into the world, but like, man, do they throw it. Like Alex is an actual ninja. Like he's a black belt and all sorts of crazy shit. Like he trains people. He's like competed at worlds and stuff like that. Like he's an actual badass. So like, I feel like people forget that about him. Like people like just look at him and they're like, oh, he's small. And I think he like likes that almost, because then he just lulls them into that false sense of security. And that's just in life too. Like I notice it with him. Like, because he always tells us a story. He used to like bounce at a bar, and some dude like was trying to run out of the bar, and he just spinning hook kicked him out of nowhere and put the dude's lights out. And I was like, Alex, I genuinely believe you, and I'm just so freaking scared that the day that you're finally tired of me fucking with you, you're just gonna 3-piece me, and I'm gonna be unconscious and bleeding out.
Yep.
And then Adam's just like a feisty he's like a feisty pit bull. That dude just, no matter how many times you put that dude down, like we're constantly like shitting on each other, giving each other crap. Any time that you throw something at him, he fires back like 10 times harder, and you're like, oh, damn, dude, all right, shit, I didn't know we were like that. But that's for Michigan. That's what we got from Death Threat. But outside of that, we got numbers pretty much everywhere.
Oh yeah, if you guys watching are not aware of Death Threat Army, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm telling you,
sir,
right
you
now,
gotta go peep that,
dude. Look, check out Jack Price. That dude is unreal.
smooth.
Athletic, unreal.
Oh yeah, that's the smoothest dude I've ever seen in the ring.
You and Orion you guys remind me of a leaner version of LOD, because when y'all hit people, it feels like you're snatching souls. And that's dope as fuck. I mean, I like, look, we're in the, we keep beating this dead horse, but I'm gonna beat it again. We've been in the military. So for us to suspend our disbelief, it has to look like a fight.
100%. Yeah.
So when I see, like, there's a match that we're going to talk about in a minute, but I know you'll remember this match. It was a Horror Slam heavyweight match versus Trey Miguel.
Oh yeah.
There's a move that we're going to talk about here in a minute where I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God. But that's how I like my wrestling. I want you to lay your shit in. Whether it's women's wrestling, main roster stuff or indie stuff, you should be laying your shit in. That's the only way you're going to suspend my disbelief. And when I watch you and Orion, not saying that Jack doesn't lay his shit in, but he's a little bit smaller. He's a freak athlete. He reminds me athletically of Ricochet is who he kind of reminds me of.
I can see it. Yeah.
Where you and Orion are the goddamn bruisers, where you're just, let's go drink a beer. I'm going to kick the shit out of you and we'll figure it out from there.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And then Broner reminds me of, it's the weirdest comparison, but he reminds me of Mike Tyson a little bit.
Oh, that's genuinely the best. Like, he's just like, he's the nicest dude. Like, when you actually get to know him, he's genuinely a nice dude. But the second that bell rings, like, me and him are boys. And any time that I've been in the ring, I think I was against him like one time or twice or something of that nature. And each time I've walked away being like, yep, I wrestled Isiah today. And like, not in like a he works stiff type way. He's snug. He lays his stuff in and he makes it count. And that's like the one thing that like Aaron always told me from the beginning. He was like, the second that bell rings and you walk out through that curtain, this shit's real. Like nothing's fake. Like, this is real as hell. If you believe it's real, it's real. Like, absolutely. That's basically how you got to go about it.
And it's your job to make it real for the audience.
Exactly.
You know, this is what I love. I've just gotten into the indies. What I love about the indie scene, especially here in Texas, because I haven't traveled outside the state to any other indie scenes, but in Texas, the indie scene's blowing the fuck up.
You guys are having a big surge right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Thunder Rosa and her Mission Pro off the chains. Off the goddamn chains. I went to an indie show in Arlington called Pele Pro. Enzo was there. Fucking Savage Gent was there. Victor Benjamin, that's my guy. Josh fucking Alexander was there. Who, Jesus Christ, that dude is a monster.
That dude, he's genuinely probably the best, one of the best out there.
He's fucking. He was fighting this dude. I don't know if you've heard of him, Izzy James.
Yeah, I believe I've heard of him. So
he was fighting this dude, Izzy James, and I had never heard of Izzy James before this match. Like I said, just got into indie wrestling. Legit. If anybody told me it was less than a 5-star match, I would smack him in the mouth. Like, that match was fucking fire. Outstanding from bell to bell. And there were slower spots where they would slow down and kind of make you think about what they're doing, and then there was a lot of action and a lot of hard hitting shit. It had everything that I've been a wrestling fan for 35 years. I grew up on, early 90s. I've watched John Cena. I've watched Stone Cold. I've watched, everything. This reminded me of a match where I was like, I could not stop watching.
No, yeah. I agree 100%.
And so the indie scene, that's what I love about the indie scene, because you don't know what you're going to get. You could get a guy who has one match, who's out there trying to bust his ass and learn in front of a crowd for the first or second time. Or you could get somebody like fucking Josh Alexander or Chandler Hopkins or Victor Benjamin, who are going to go out there and blow you out of the fucking water.
Yep.
And then the other thing, I was going to save this to last, but I kind of want to ask you about it now. The indie scene is changing. Let's talk about, have you heard about the Heritage hoax?
No, I haven't yet.
So Heritage Pro Wrestling, the booker booked 30 plus talents on this card. And I might have some details wrong, but I just read the story. He booked 30 plus talents on this card. It's an indie show, so they weren't getting paid much. Had him come in, set up the ring, changed every detail on him last minute, changed the location, just was a scumbag promoter. He left before the end of the show and didn't pay any of the talent. Didn't pay a person. Not one fucking talent got paid.
Jesus Christ.
And it's so rare that happens nowadays, because motherfuckers have independent wrestlers on Twitter have like hundreds of thousands of followers nowadays.
Oh yeah.
You can't pull that bullshit anymore.
No, not anymore. Like that shit blows up real quick.
Oh yeah. Like I almost, not quite, almost feel sorry for this dude when those talents catch him.
Oh, he's fucked. Yeah.
It's going to be a bad day for that dude. You're done.
100%. Yeah. That's just, there's some shit that you don't pull, and that's one of them. Like that's not something that you should do.
I can't imagine having a verbal agreement with a talent and then just saying, fuck them. Like that just, I'm not made that way.
It happens though. I mean, it's more rare nowadays that it happens, but I mean, especially for like green guys, like when I was like first year or two in the business, it would happen all the time.
Yeah. Has it happened to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, not that I haven't been like fully outright paid. I've had like a couple of those issues, but like nothing crazy. But like I've had a couple of issues where like you agree to one set and then like they flip it and like, oh, like house was light, brother, we'll get you next time, like something like that type of thing. And I mean, it's when I talk to it like with the DTA guys and like when it pisses me off, I'm like, yo, what the hell? And it's pretty much like, hey, take it with a grain of salt. Now you just know that dude doesn't want to book you, right? He doesn't want to book you for you. He's trying to hassle you or haggle with you and stuff like that. And if that's what he wants to do, if you want to work with that, that's fine. But I think that more people on the indies, more wrestlers on the indies are starting to realize that while these promotions are a business, we are also a business. And you don't just get to like utilize us for whatever cost that you determine is our cost. Like we have a set price. Like you wouldn't go to McDonald's and start haggling with them over their meal prices. Like you're going to go in, you're going to pay that price because that's what you want. So I think that we're getting to a point now where promoters are realizing like you're paying what you get. And so if like you pay somebody who's supposedly like if they're booking fees like $50 and you're paying them $20, I don't expect to have those people want to come back. Like it just works in that way. And like, especially in situations like that, where they just like outright don't pay people, don't be surprised if somebody catches you in a parking lot. Like, I mean, that's just how that goes at that point.
Yeah. You're asking for an ass whooping at that point. If not, look, I don't wish violence on anybody because I've done my share of violence. You've done your share of violence. It was, kind of our job descriptions. But look, if you fuck with people's money, especially during the pandemic, if you get your ass whooped, I don't feel sorry for you. Not even a little bit.
I
Like,
agree. I'm not going to blink.
no, I will sleep sound. In fact, I'll probably sleep better knowing he got his ass whooped as a fan of the
100%.
business.
100%. I would agree 100%.
So
with
the
that.
other thing that has changed in the wrestling scene, not just in indies, is aside from promoters, scumbag wrestlers getting called out.
Yeah.
It's been, the speaking out movement has done a lot of good for wrestling.
I
Female,
genuinely
male,
would agree with that.
everybody. Have you? Obviously, it's different being a man in the industry, being a man in the business. But has there been situations where you're like, I'm never going back to that fucking promotion again because I just got a skeevy vibe off of them? Have you encountered that situation?
I haven't personally. I've had a couple of friends who have had like issues in the past and stuff, which that in turn has like made me not want to go to some places. But I haven't had anything for me personally. But like I said, like it happens, and it's something that's a lot less common, I think, now because of the speaking out movement and the Me Too movement and things of that nature. And I think it's great, like, because we're clearing up the business after a long time of it just not getting cleaned up. And like when you hear some of these stories that people are putting out, it's like gut wrenching to know that like while I'm having this perspective that wrestling is like full of all this like awesomeness and it's good vibes, like everyone loves everybody, like that's what it is to me. There's other people who are going through way worse and like not loving the same thing that I love, and they're like currently in it and they're suffering because some asshole wants to be a piece of shit. And it makes me happy that more people are having the ability to stand up finally and have their voices be heard, because I think it's been way too long where people have sat in silence, and it's never good. Silence just creates chaos.
All of my guests, male or female, just because it's something that I think everybody needs to talk about. It needs to be, like you said, silence helps nobody. In fact, it hurts the entire industry. So if people,
I agree.
I watch other podcasts. I watched a bunch of podcasts that you were on with interviews and stuff. And the one problem that I have with some podcasts is the fact that they don't want to hit on a hard subject like that. It's all about, your work in the ring, which is great. I absolutely want to talk about that. But this is an issue. I have a daughter. So to me, it's super close to my heart. And I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of Death Threat Army. And as a fan, I want to know where you stand on this really shitty subject. And
No, 100%.
It's good to kind of have this different conversation aside from just like, who are you wrestling in 2 weeks from now? Like, that's cool, but let's get on to some shit that actually means something.
I agree. And I think it's incredibly important to like kind of show that side of you to the fans and stuff like that. Like, because like at the end of the day, like you can scream and holler at like the fans all you want. Like they're going to cheer you because like you're like this larger than life figure. And I think in a way you're doomed to be a role model by like, but not even by choice, by just like process of elimination. Like you're just naturally put like above people in their eyes. And I think when that happens, a lot of people are affected then when like the speaking out like affects one of their wrestlers or something like that, because you develop these like pure emotions for these people, and then you find out that it was all a lie or something, or that like this one person who you thought was perfectly fine is not fine. They're going through a bunch of stuff. And I think it's good to see that we're finally like breaking past that and getting to a point where like no one's afraid to out a fucking piece of shit. Like it's beyond time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to say it again, like I said in my last episode with Gypsy Mac, and all the episodes that I've done before. The two that I absolutely call out every single goddamn podcast because they're fucking scumbags. Fuck you, Joey Ryan, and fuck you, Velveteen Dream. Anyways, moving on from that.
That works. That works.
So I want to talk about this match that you had with Trey Miguel. I watched it.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody knows who Trey Miguel is. The dude is doing his fucking thing, like indies.
Oh yeah,
Impact,
he's killing it.
Yeah. So this match that you guys had, it was an indie show. It was maybe, I think there was like 45 or 50 people there.
Yeah, there's like 50, 75 people there, something like that.
You guys fucking. The great thing about shows like that, and the camera work at this match was fucking on point. It was great.
Oh yeah,
Whoever
they killed it.
Was on point. The great thing about that match, my favorite thing about this match was anytime y'all would talk shit to each other, you would be like, "Bye-bye, bitch." And Trey, oh my God, it was fucking magic. You guys, like, it was just, how was that match from a performer standpoint?
Oh, dude, that was. I honestly think that was the most natural I've ever like been in the ring. Like Trey's arguably top 10 in the world right now. Like you can't even dispute that. And I think when you're working with someone at that caliber, it's like impossible to have a bad match because they just are constantly in there, like making sure that like it's just natural. Like I was saying, like you just go naturally with a flow. And I think like. We like with Trey, it just like I'm friends with Trey, and I think that also helped. But I mean, just talking through it and like rewatching it and stuff, it was by far my best match I think I've had to date as a singles wrestler, at least.
You guys, man, there was chemistry in that match that I was like, okay. Sometimes when you watch indie wrestling or independent wrestling, you're like, okay, these are guys who are just kind of feeling each other out. They don't have that chemistry built in. But with you two, that match, I was like, God damn. Like, it looked like y'all literally could talk shit, look at each other, and know exactly, okay, let's do this next without having to fucking talk it all. Because that crowd is so small, they could probably hear you talking in the ring if they were paying attention enough.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they would have, yeah.
So the great thing about just watching it on YouTube, I was like, man, this is two dudes who trust each other, one, because y'all were hitting the fuck out of each other. And two, you guys have this chemistry where, like I said, it just seemed like he'd follow your lead, you'd follow his lead. We'd get the heat and we'd do the shine, and then, these spots. And the one move that I want to talk about, you put Trey up on the fucking top rope, and you grabbed him in like a baseball backpack stunner type deal, run to the opposite corner and do a fucking cannonball with this dude on your back. Holy shit. That move was fucking insane. I've seen people do cannonballs before, but not with another grown-ass man on their back. What was going through your mind doing that with Trey on your back?
So I had came up with it. I had seen somebody use it. Landers is his name. I had seen him use it. I don't know if he uses it as a move as well, but he had gotten put into a sleeper hold, and then he put the guy on his back and just cannonballed him in the corner, and then I didn't see him really do it again. So I was like, I do a cannonball. I feel like that's something that I could do as like a big move. And then it just started picking up in Michigan, and like people really love it. Like that's basically my finisher now. And when I picked Trey up, I can tell you, I picked him up, and I always tell the guy when I'm running him to the corner, I tell him I love him, just because I know that it can't feel the greatest at all. Yeah. So I picked him up, we hit it, and then when he kicked out, the crowd reaction was huge. I just knew we had him at that point. And it just like, I've only had like a few people kick out of it. Jason Page just kicked out. Well, excuse me, Jason Hotch just kicked out of it. But I think it just got like same thing you were saying. It looks grimy, it looks rough. So I feel like when I hit it, or like when anybody hits it, if anybody else out there hits it, I think it really gives that like, oh my God, like it's not even like it's just like it looks rough. So I feel like people react to it like it just looks rough.
Yeah, literally, I was watching the match and I was writing down notes for tonight, and I saw it kind of out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" So I rewound it back on YouTube, and I put my phone down, and I just watched it and rewound it again and watched it again. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, the only way that would have been worse is if you had like somehow had him on your back, you were on the second rope, firemen's carried him on the mat and then did it. That's the only way it would have been worse.
That would be rough.
That would suck for both of you guys. But the great thing is, like I said, you guys had this fucking chemistry, dude, where he hit his Meteora on you. You took it like a fucking champ. Like, the selling between you guys was fucking fantastic. The psychology, why you guys were selling, what you guys were doing. From somebody, like I said, I'm a 35-year fan, and I'm somebody who's building relationships with independent wrestlers. So I know a little bit more than your casual fan does.
For sure.
But the placement, the footwork, like the goddamn, was it a power bomb to those fucking chairs on the outside? Like, Jesus Christ, dude, there's so much trust between you two for him to let you do that. That was fucking, it was by far one of my favorite matches I've ever watched.
Hell yeah, man. Appreciate that. And I think that was the first time we'd ever faced off in a ring against each other, too. I had gone to a couple of training sessions with him and stuff like that. But as far as I can remember, we had never like squared off any tag matches. We've never done it. Like, that was the first time we were opponents in the ring. So I was excited going into it because obviously it's Trey Miguel and that's the dude that's up at the top. And it made it all the more like cool to me that it was like such a good match. It had like natural flow. And then Trey, I think Trey liked it. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he did. And it was genuinely a fun time. And I think Death Threat, we always joke, we got some of our best matches out of Trey Miguel in this year because Aaron's wrestled him as well. And they had, by far, it was one of the best matches I've seen live when Aaron and Trey wrestled. So I definitely think like working with a guy like Trey helps like bring others up to his level. And then like just the structure and the flow of the match is like you really got to see like this dude's bars above me. And it was like very cool to just be in there and like learn on the fly from him and just like get to experience that all. And I loved it. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, dude, that match, I'll have to bring that match to Texas. That shit was insane, bro. Like,
for sure, man. We gotta bring it to Texas.
Hell yes. I was a fan of yours, like I said, through Jack before this, and I was a fan of Trey Miguel. Obviously, I watched him on Impact. I watched him through the Indies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But you, man, like I said, this is the dope thing about the Indies, right? Like, I've got a chance to expand my wrestling fandom, obviously, into Death Threat Army, Shane Taylor Promotions, who I wasn't super familiar with Shane Taylor before this. Holy fuck. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Some of the best shit is going on in the Indies right now. And then you've got guys like Victor Benjamin, who I'm a super fan of. Mm-hmm. His wife, Lady Frost, killer.
Yeah.
Then there's this kid, I'm probably like 11 years older than him, so I can call him a kid, named Chandler Hopkins out of Arlington. This kid is him and Victor Benjamin had a match on the night that I was up in Arlington. Man, I mean, I don't know how long he's been wrestling. He's one of the guys I want to get on the show, but it's so dope, the Indies, that you can go see a guy and be like, oh no, that motherfucker's going to be in WrestleMania one day. Like, for sure. And that's what's so dope about kind of staying on the indie scene as opposed to interviewing like these giant superstars is the fact that like that match with you and Trey Miguel is going to sit in my fucking top 10 of matches for a long fucking time until you guys do a number 2.
Hell yeah. Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Like fucking tag match, like you and Orion or you and Jack, against him and somebody else. But that's what's dope about it. I want to ask you about, because I've never been to Michigan. How was the Michigan indie scene right now?
I think that right now with the Michigan Indies, there's like a ton of talent here that kind of goes undiscovered just because over time, I think Michigan has developed a complex of being like a black hole. Just because you have Canada right above you, you have Ohio right beneath you, which is like a big time wrestling state, and then you have like Chicago not too far, and Indiana's right there. So I think like Michigan kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, which like you notice guys like Jake Something and Rohit Raju, Jason Hodge, Sam Beal, Karam, these guys that like end up leaving the state more, and they're not as like they don't wrestle a lot at the local shows. That's when they start to gain more notoriety. But I think Michigan's starting to kind of get it. Like you have Horror Slam working with GCW here in September. You have RPW working with ICW coming up in October. Chainsaw is constantly putting stuff out onto IWTV. So I think we're starting to get up there. RPW is also on IWTV. So I think that's like the good steps. And I think like more promoters are starting to like see how other states are doing it and getting their brand over and getting it with eyes on it and stuff. And I think that that's starting to work. But I think there are some promoters in Michigan that kind of, and it's wrestlers too. You develop into the, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type complex. They still book stuff like the 90s and the early 2000s, and like there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that nowadays, in order to gain those outside fans to come in and look, you have to bring in like those Trey Miguel talents. You got to bring in. You got to bring in talent that'll work. And there's a lot of talent in Michigan, like I said, that goes unnoticed. And I think that coming here in like probably the next year or so, we'll start to see more and more of them like break out.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have Michigan produced an ECW legend in Rhino.
Yeah.
Have you worked Rhino yet?
Oh, I've wrestled Rhino thousands of times at this point. It feels like I love it. He's genuinely. The first time I wrestled him was in a singles match at Chainsaw, and it was like I had to check myself before I even walked in the building. I was like, "Look, dude, you're a professional. You are a professional. You're not a fan. Don't act like a fan." Because I remember like when I was a kid, I would watch Rhino on TV and screaming gore, and like it's just real crazy to be in there and like stand in one corner and look across. And I was just like, holy shit. Like that's Rhino. But I could wrestle him literally 7 days a week. I love Rhino.
Dude, it's so crazy. Like, you know, like we're talking about, the indie scene right now is on fire. You have a lot of releases that just came from WWE that people are going to start hitting the indie scene real soon. Real soon. And then you've got this forbidden door that's opening with AEW and New Japan and ROH and Impact. And, you know, they're bringing in, like, Thunder Rosa just signed to AEW. Fucking Fuego del Sol just signed to AEW.
Which was super sweet. I was so happy to see that.
I literally teared up watching that. It was because I got to meet him up in Arlington. He signed a picture for my kids. He sent a video to my kids. Super amazing dude.
That's what's up.
So when I saw that video, I was like getting kind of emotional. Like, this is a good dude getting what he's busted his balls for.
Exactly.
And the cool thing is, as much as I love WWE and it's what I grew up on, there's so many more options now. So
I don't think more than ever there's more options.
And you have so much, you know, you have talent and professionals that are coming out and teaching the next generation. Like down here in San Antonio, Thunder Rosa has a school called the Dog Pound Dojo, which I will always put over because Thunder Rosa's fucking amazing.
She's dope.
She's so dope. She teaches with Jazz, who is going to be a fucking Hall of Famer one day.
For sure.
And Jazz's husband, Rodney Mack, who has been to the dance, who has been to the big show. Yep. And then you have another one out here that I've had the chance to interview a lot of guys from, is Hybrid School of Wrestling with Chris Marvel and Funaki. Like, you talk about
Oh,
fucking
for sure.
Funaki. Fucking Funaki. And one of the guys from Hybrid, my boy Casey Blackrose, just had a dark match with Keith Lee on Raw last night.
That's what's up.
Dude, it's the indies are blowing the fuck up. Because you don't have to, like, GCW right now is on fucking fire.
Dude, they're the hottest thing going right now.
A lot of that is due to Nick Gage going on AEW and getting that worldwide exclusive. A lot of that is Matt Cardona going in there and winning their world title and pissing everybody off.
Genuinely, that I loved it. I ate up all of it. I sat and I was just like, that's exactly what they needed to do. That's great.
Oh yeah, look, Nick Gage is Nick Gage. Like, death matches aren't my thing. It's just not my thing. I can't criticize somebody for doing a match. It's just not my thing. But Nick Gage, especially after that match with Jericho, is a certified goddamn superstar from now until the day he dies.
Oh yeah, he's bigger than any title right now.
Oh yeah. But having somebody like a Cardona come in who's been to WWE, who's been to Impact, and he's willing, he's doing what he's doing because he loves wrestling. I'm sure he's getting paid pretty decent too, obviously, but he's doing what he's doing in a GCW because he loves wrestling. Matt Cardona is doing what a main event guy is supposed to do, and the man is making the title. The title's not making the man.
I would agree. Yeah, 100%.
And it's such a cool time to be even tangentially like I am connected to the wrestling business, because it's like everybody praises the Attitude Era. Great era. I loved it. The wrestling business has never been hotter than it is in 2021.
I think I would agree, honestly.
I mean, you guys, look, the fact of the matter is, I know there are promoters down here who would bring you guys down from Michigan, who would pay your fee, and you guys would be well received in Texas because of who we are. And Texas guys could go up to Michigan and work with you guys and fucking blow people out of the water. And that's the greatest thing is promotions are working with each other instead of, this is my territory, stay out of my territory. No, fuck that. Let's get money. Let's all get money.
Yep. I agree. I think that we're now hitting that point where, like, you see a lot more like big name companies working with other big name companies. You're doing like a lot of versus shows and stuff of that nature. And I think that's what's like really helping to elevate it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been in some death matches.
I have.
How is that kind of your specialty now? Are you the deathmatch guy in Death Threat Army?
I think it's kind of like a secondary thing. Like I more so in Michigan, I'm like the hardcore guy, I think. Chuck Stein's probably the deathmatch guy in the state of Michigan, even though I beat him for his title. It's whatever. But I definitely, I love him, man. Like, it's like a sick pleasure for me. For some reason, it's just like, because you can't fake anything. Like there's nothing, like, people, like, everyone throws the word fake around. There's nothing fake about it. Like I'm really bleeding. There's this real blood gushing out of the top of my head from a gusset plate that just stabbed into it. Like, this is real blood from all the glass I've been rolling around in this ring. Like, they're actual cuts. Like, and I think, like, that's the point where, like, pain is something that you can't fake. It's real. It's as real as it gets. When someone's in pain, you know they're in pain. Like, it's just, you see it. It's real. And I think death matches provide that aspect of the realism for the people who struggle to find it in normal wrestling, where now they're seeing what they think they should see. And now they're like, oh, wow, look at, like, this motherfucker is dead. Like, there's no way he's going to get back up. And then you get back up and they're like, what the fuck? And I think, like, that's what makes me, like, into him. And I think it's also, it might be like a little narcissistic thing. Like, I like feeling like a superhero, and I like looking like I'm bulletproof, like, look at all this stuff that I'm coated in blood. Let me take a picture with my middle finger up and stuff. Like, it doesn't bother me. Pain ain't anything. And then 2 days later, I'm walking like this through the house, like, babe, can you help me with my back?
That's what I do to myself. Yeah.
Yeah. But I genuinely love them, man. I think for Death Threat, I am the deathmatch guy, though. I don't think anybody else is looking to do a deathmatch anytime soon.
I think for me, like I said, they're just not something I can watch all the time. That's why I never really got into like CZW.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see something like Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho on fucking cable TV, that's insanity. Like Chris Jericho hurricaned this motherfucker through plate glass. This dude literally was slicing Chris Jericho's head with a fucking pizza cutter, like on TV. In those instances, I think death matches that served a huge purpose, and it put GCW over really, really well. It made the storyline between Jericho and MJF more vicious. It made it to where he had something to overcome.
100%.
I think if you're going to do a death match, it needs to mean something. Just doing a death match is kind of stupid to me.
I would agree. I think there has to be something that you're fighting for, whether it be emotion or a championship. Like there has to be something that you gain from it, because they're like, in life, you're not going to just go through a bunch of struggly shit and then just not get anything on the other end. Like that, people will snap at that point. So I think like in the sense of deathmatch wrestling, I like to be able to tell an accurate story and portray those emotions. And even in a hardcore match, I always try to like, again, suspend that disbelief and just make people believe like, okay, this is no longer a work anymore. Like this is all real. Like this dude's actually trying to gouge his eye out with like a broken light tube type thing. And I think like, when people see that, I always joke that like we're animals by nature. I think it like reignites that animalistic nature where like you see blood and like your heart starts pumping a little bit and you get a little bit more excited. And I think that's like something that people like hide from on a day-to-day basis. And then you finally get to see it. And now like it's essentially like you're feeling that bloodlust. And I think that's something that like in wrestling, we've had since the Attitude Era, because like you see these dudes bleeding like crimson masks and stuff. And it's like, for me, when I was watching, I was like, that's badass. Like John Cena stands up just coated in red. I was like, okay, this dude is a fucking superhero. He's indestructible. There's nobody that can stop this guy. And I think that's where, like, for me, that's where I get the want and desire to do the death matches, is that people afterwards are like, dude, you aren't all there in the head. And I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, you're right.
No disagreement. Yeah, I think they serve a huge purpose when they're done right. You know, I used to love TNA when they would do those Monsters Ball matches, because they would have stories leading into those Monsters Ball matches. And the Monsters Ball would be the culmination. And those fucking matches were gross. I mean, thumbtacks in people's faces, like barbed wire all over the place, like women getting black hole slammed by Abyss into barbed wire into fucking thumbtacks.
It's very ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah. They were so fucking dope. But TNA made it smart to where, and this is one of the things that I think TNA did better than WWE for sure, is they took that Monsters Ball, they had a hit with the first one, and they said, okay, this is special. Let's put it over here for a year. Let's not touch it for a year. But if there's 3 or 4 guys fighting for the X Division title or the heavyweight title, we're going to have all of them beat the shit out of each other with no conclusion. And then the Monsters Ball match. That's what one of the things that I think TNA did really, really well was that Monsters Ball match.
I would agree. Genuinely, I would agree.
They also, they had fucking Abyss and Rhino and Jeff Hardy and Sabu and
They had a who's who.
Guys who just like pain for some ungodly reason. So
Very true.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, we were talking about how the wrestling scene, and this will be the last thing. We're a little bit over an hour, and I don't want to keep you too long, but I want to get your take on this.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Wrestling, like we said, is changing. Intergender wrestling is becoming a giant thing, especially on the indies.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the Tommy Vendetta wheelhouse?
Oh yeah, I love intergender wrestling. I think you can tell great and compelling stories with it, and I think the reason why people are a little bit afraid of it is just because like you have the old school mentality where like that's not how it was, so it shouldn't be like that. But I mean, there's plenty like Kylie Ray. Like, I mean, she's out there killing it. Like one of the best. Jody Threat's another one who you see them all over the place. Bianca Belair, like their main event. Like women are now main eventing WrestleMania. Like anything's possible. So I think in my head, if someone is good enough to main event WrestleMania, like who am I to say that like me as an independent wrestler, I'm better than them because I'm a male, or like I shouldn't like lose to them because I'm a male. I just think that that's like a very narrow-sighted way of looking at it, and like I genuinely love it. Like I've had my handful of intergender matches, and every single time I have them, I constantly want to do another one because it's just they're so much fun. The crowd gets so into it. You have them on the edge of their seat, and it proves that like genuinely there are chicks out there that can whoop dudes' asses. Like if Ronda Rousey genuinely wanted to, she could kick my ass hands down. Like there's nothing I could do about it.
There's
like,
nobody to do anything about that if Ronda Rousey wanted to whoop that ass.
Yeah, she just judo throw me and then just start hammer fisting my face in, and I would just sit there and be a dead person because she's way more trained than I am in that way. And I think that a lot of people don't factor that in because same thing as we're talking about, like it's not like real to them. And I think like once you can make it real, that's when like everything starts to become better, like intergender wrestling, like the deathmatch wrestling, all that stuff. And I love it, dude. Like I constantly am like trying to like get booked in intergender matches or intergender tags because like there's so many more avenues of approach to the match that you can do. You can tell so many like different stories, and I just love it. It opens up so many doors.
Yeah. So there is a female wrestler named Dulce Tormenta that I am a huge pro show. She's just awesome. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
She put out a clip on her Instagram where she was fighting. She was in a match with this dude, and I guess she's done a bunch of intergender wrestling because all of her brothers used to wrestle, so that's what she grew up with. She was fighting this dude, and he kind of, he slammed her, but he put her down super gingerly at the same time. And she got up and she open hand palm striked him in his chest, and I was like, Jesus, God damn it! Like she's a little tiny girl, and I felt like if she hit me with that, my chest would cave in. Fucking insane.
Hands down, some of the hardest hits I've taken in a wrestling ring have been from women in the wrestling ring. Like they don't come to play. They just say, I think it's chip on their shoulder. They're trying to prove like, hey, anything you can do, I can do better. And hey, I know that, but if you got to use me as your talking point, show them. Like I'll take the pain. I'm cool with it. But man, dude, they lay it in there, and I love it. Like because I love working snug, but it's definitely cool when you see like you have either like two chicks wrestling on a show or like an intergender match, and then you like the perception from the crowd usually going out is like, oh, she's probably gonna lose, and then when they go out and just dust mop these dudes and are just beating the dog shit out of them, I'm like, yeah, she ain't gonna lose, brother. Like she gonna beat that ass. If she is losing, she's still gonna take a win.
There was I'm a huge giant Keith Lee fan. Huge match he had against Mia Yim. Oh my fucking God. She beat his fucking ass.
Mm-hmm.
Mia Yim is not like this 6 foot tall, 200-pound woman. She's 5'4", 5'5", something like that. And Keith Lee is 6'1", 6'2", and 320 pounds or some shit like that. She beat the
It's a
dog
big boy.
shit out of him. And on top of beating the dog shit out of him, she took everything he could throw at her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he spirit bombed her. He Grizzly Magnum chopped her. Like, it felt like that match at the end of it, it felt like she, in the back, she was like, look, motherfucker, you're going to hit me as hard as you hit dudes. If you don't, I'm going to fuck you up. That's what that whole match felt.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to. It's not like you're trying to like beat them up or anything like that. But like, if I take some oomph off of a forearm that I usually am just smoking people with, the fans are gonna see it. I'm gonna know it. She's gonna know it, and then everyone's gonna feel that it was different, and then therefore it has a totally different feel for the match. So I think like that's why I think you have a lot of these girls are going out there and just saying, "No, motherfucker. You don't want to hit me? Fine. I'm going to hit you, though. Like, just know that." And that's when it's kind of like that awakening when you see the dude take that first, like, open slap to the neck, and they're like, oh, okay.
This girl is not playing.
Not playing games, man.
Yeah. There's my favorite clip, and we'll kind of start winding down on this. My favorite clip on the internet, and I was there at Mission Pros Locked and Loaded, Dave LaGreca versus Thunder Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
And Thunder Rosa peeled this dude's shirt off and silenced everybody in the crowd. Now, Mission Pro shows at their venue or the place that they usually have, there's about 100, 150 people there, which is a nice-sized crowd for an indie show.
Yeah, for sure.
She shut everybody up, peeled this dude's shirt off, and said, I was like, oh. And it was the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Hell yeah. I love that shit.
He crawled out of the ring and he stood up and was talking shit, and you just see Thunder Rosa's handprint on his fucking chest. And I was like, Dave LaGreca is not a worker, and this dude just took the hardest chop I've ever heard in my life. Fuck that noise.
I love it. I love it.
I have so much respect for the ass whooping that he took that night.
Oh,
For anybody to get it, like, all wrestling fans have this dream of, I want to main event WrestleMania one day, and I want to be in there and do this. I came to the realization real quick after 2014 when I got out. This ain't for me. My back is fucked up. My knees are fucked up. The Army fucked me up physically.
I feel
Taking
you.
bumps for me. So anybody that gets in the ring and takes an ass whooping, I'm like, okay, whether you're a worker, you're an announcer, you're a ref who takes bumps, because fucking ref bumps are insane.
Yeah, they'd be taking some meaty ones out there.
Oh my God. Especially some of the super kick bumps they take. Jesus Christ.
Oh, hands down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So anybody who gets in there and physically takes a bump or takes a punch, I'm like, good on you, bro, because fuck that. I'm not doing that shit. It's not happening. Not happening. Speaking of super kick bumps, that fucking super kick Trey hit you with, there was this much distance between your chest and your throat, and it looked like he kicked you right in your fucking Adam's apple. I was like, good God, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's got that pinpoint accuracy.
That dude, I was like, the coolest thing about it was you just took the bump into or you took the hit into the chest, and there was no, there was no visible hand up on your chin.
Oh, you just gotta eat those.
I get why people do that. Obviously, you don't want to crack all your grill up.
Yeah.
But see somebody just take it, I'm like, oh, I have so much more respect for you right now.
Nah, Aaron always, he's like, motherfucker, will you put a hand up? And I'm like, nah, dude. Like, I trust people. And then it's bitten me in the ass a few times. Don't get me wrong. Alex being a real life ninja, he's caught me a few times, and I've woken up the next day and couldn't eat like anything. I was like,
Dude, that super kick bump. anytime I see anybody take a super kick, I'm like, oh, because you can only pull that so much before you're actually right on, foot on jaw.
100%.
Good God, man. Look, so before we wrap up, tell everybody where they can find you socials. I've got them scrolling across the bottom, but tell everybody where they can find you on socials, where they can pick up merch, and what you've got coming up in the near future.
Yeah, so on pretty much all my social medias, if you just look up Tommy Vendetta, I don't think there's anybody else in there. It's at Tommy_Vendetta for Twitter. On Instagram, it's at lovablepsychopath_DTA. Facebook's just Tommy Vendetta. I have Tommy Vendetta YouTube page. I had a couple of matches. You can find that Trey Miguel match on there.
Fuck yeah!
You also find definitely watch that one. I don't usually bat my own horn, but that one's fun. You'll enjoy it if you haven't seen it yet. And then Pro Wrestling Tees, I have a little site on there. So if you look up Tommy Vendetta on Pro Wrestling Tees, you can definitely get some of my merch on there. Got some new designs coming out soon. And as far as like upcoming events, I know Aaron and I this upcoming week, Thursday, we fly out to Minnesota. We have 2 shows in Minnesota on the 19th and 20th for Iron Pro Wrestling, or Iron Heart Pro Wrestling, excuse me. And then we have a show in Wisconsin on the 21st. We fly back home on the 22nd for that. And then the following week, I have Ruthless Pro Wrestling. I have Insane Wrestling Revolution, which is Rhino's promotion here in Michigan. What else I got next? I got Mr. Chainsaw Pro Wrestling, which will be on IWTV. And yeah, man, I'm pretty much just trying to get out there. I'm trying to get down to Texas, man. We'll get down there soon.
You'll have a goddamn ball down there. So much up and coming talent. I mean, just in San Antonio alone, we've got 3 giant independent promotions. We've got River City Wrestling, we've got Hybrid School of Wrestling, and we've got Mission Pro, who, before we go, Mission Pro has a show this Friday. I'm taking my daughter to it. It's a charity show for the Salvation Army. If you're in San Antonio, they still have tickets. Come donate to the Salvation Army. All of the proceeds from the show are going to the Salvation Army. It will be my daughter's first independent or first wrestling show, period. So I'm very excited for that.
Hell yeah.
You guys go follow Tommy on everything. Fucking Facebook. What, dude, not just that Trey Miguel match. There's some other matches where Tommy's leaving and you're like, oh, he lost skin on that one. That's, oh God, Jesus Christ. Go watch this shit on YouTube. Like, even if you're like me, not necessarily a fan of death matches, if it's a Tommy Vendetta match, if it's a DTA match, I guarantee you will enjoy it. All of their shit is really well done. The psychology is there. It's hard hitting. And I can tell you now, you will never see a DTA match, doesn't matter what member, that you go, they didn't really hit each other that hard. That shit doesn't happen.
Yeah, we come to swing, man. We out here swinging and banging, you know.
Oh my God. So go support DTA. Go support Tommy Vendetta. Support indie wrestling. If you guys want the next generation of superstars, support fucking indie wrestling.
Definitely.
After this, Tommy, I got some better advice for you about the merch. We'll get together off air. You guys,
for sure.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. I love you guys more than you guys will ever know. Tommy, thank you for coming on the show. This was
thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys, remember, chaos is life, and life is chaos.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure and follow the podcast on Twitter at @chaos_theory pod.